Hello everyone, my name is Rafal and I would like to welcome you to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I would like to talk about something which in my opinion is one of the most important things when it comes to photography and headshot photography. Quite often I've been receiving messages and emails and DMs from you guys asking about what kind of lighting I'm using, what kind of equipment I'm using for my headshots. And I deeply believe this is just the wrong way to look at this whole thing, because when it comes to headshot photography, it's a process. The process which needs to be looked after from the beginning to the end. And there's a lot of steps which are involved to make those images look great. And I think when I'm gonna show you today how to approach this whole thing and how to look at this whole process from completely different perspective, it's gonna help you to not only get better results, but also how to analyze where are those flaws when it comes to your work. Because I deeply believe that you have to break down this entire process to smaller elements and you have to look at them individually, and you have to look after all those elements separately to get the big picture, to get the better results. And that's why I want to create this video today to help you to understand how the process looks like and how to look at it. We're not going to go into some very specific details. I just want to show you the process which I'm taking to create my headshots and how I break down this entire process, as I said, to smaller elements, and how to analyze them, how I improve them, and how to make this whole thing work. So at the end of the day, I'm getting those interesting and stunning images. So let's dive into it, and I hope this is going to help you to look at your work from completely different perspective. Okay, so the way I look at every headshot session, I break down this entire process to 5 steps, and each of those steps is extremely important, and I look at it individually, and I want to make sure that each of those elements is done perfectly. And also on the top of that, I want to make sure that I can improve all those steps, so those results, they're going to get better and better. Okay, so let's dive into those steps. So the step number 1 is client presence, and that includes the makeup, the hairstyle, and the wardrobe. So you cannot really have a good headshot sessions and you're not gonna get good results if your subject is not ready for the session. So if they coming with no preparation, they have no makeup, the hair is messy, the wardrobe is not working well, or it's not fitting well, or doesn't photograph well, you're not gonna get good results. So before you jump into any headshot session, make sure that your client is properly prepared for the session. So properly done makeup, proper hair, and also when it comes to the wardrobe, bring several options, because just because someone looks good in certain clothing doesn't mean it's going to photograph well. So make sure that this whole thing is looked after, and your client, before even sit at the front of your camera, is ready for the session. The step number 2 is lighting setup. So when it comes to the lighting setup, there's tons of options. You guys probably know there's Rembrandt lighting, there's flat lighting, there is natural lighting. So when it comes to the lighting, I'm not going to go into details. Everyone has different approach and different style, using different type of equipment, but you have to understand what you're doing, and you have to make sure that the results you're getting, they're satisfying, and they're going to put your clients in the right light, and they're going to make the subject look good. So that's something you have to figure out. But also, if you're not getting the result, that means there's something done not properly, and you have to make sure that this lighting setup which you're using is doing the job which it's supposed to. The next element which I want to discuss is, of course, settings. So we're talking about the camera settings, lighting settings. So we want to make sure that the images we are receiving, they done properly. And again, there's different ways to do that. I'm not going to get into the details, but if you're not getting, let's say, sharp images, or the images are too exposed, or they're underexposed, or the depth of field is not right, so you have to make sure that you have that figured out, and the settings are using, they're providing you the results you're looking for. And again, this might take a little bit of time, a little bit of experience. I know sometimes it's not easy, but I'm sure as soon as you can glue this whole thing together and you can figure out the settings and everything, how it works, you're gonna get stunning results. Okay, so that was the element number 3. So the next one, which I think is very, very neglected by a lot of photographers, is the face expressions and the posing, which also gives you some kind of body language. Just because you have all this lighting right and you have all the settings right, if you're not gonna get the proper face expressions and the right posing, also the image is not going to work. So you have to study this, you have to learn how to connect with your subject, how to talk to them, how to bring the best out of them, and you can create those stunning face expressions and this proper body language, which will create these amazing images. And again, I'm not going to dive into details how to do it. I think the best way to do that is basically keep shooting, because the more you connect with different people, you can really understand them a little bit better. It's going to be much easier for you to connect with them, and you're going to be trained how to bring those interesting face expressions. Another little element I want to add it to this, because as I said, in my opinion, this is something which is extremely neglected. Try to analyze your images. So after every headshot session, I would highly recommend it to go through all those images which you shot and try to analyze the face expressions, which are working, which are not working, what you have said that say trigger something in your subject that, you know, create this amazing face expression. So this is a little bit of practice, and that takes a little bit of time to learn that. But again, this is something which is extremely important. This is one of those elements which needs to be looked after. If you're gonna have someone who's just staring at the camera, it's not gonna work. Okay, and the final element which I have to say is, again, very, very important, is the retouching. Just because everything is working well and then you got this cool images, you still need to take them to the next level, and they have to go through the retouching process. And there's different ways to do that. You can outsource retouching to some company or somebody you know and you trust, and you know they can provide you great results. Or you can learn how to retouch yourself and retouch those images to your own standards. So that's 2 options you can use. But having said that, the retouching has to be part of your process. You cannot really neglect it, this whole thing, and say, hey, I'm gonna get great images straight from the camera. I think this is nonsense, and we're living in the era where retouching is a huge part of this process, and you cannot really just dump this and say, hey, you know what, I'm not gonna retouch my images. Okay, so summarize this whole thing, and I want to just basically just tell you the most important thing here. You have to look at those all elements separately, and you have to analyze them, and you want to make sure that they're looked after and you implement them in every headshot session. Just because you have great lighting, good settings, and let's say you have a great makeup and the subject looks stunning, if there's not right face expressions and the body language, those images, they're not going to work. And could be opposite way. You might have the best face expressions, you might have great lighting, but let's say the client is not prepared and there's no makeup and it's the hair are messy and the wardrobe is not working. Again, you're gonna hit the wall and you're not gonna get the results. So what I'm trying to say here, that from now on, whenever you're gonna be shooting headshots, try to look at those all 5 elements separately. You cover all of them, because if you glue them all together and each of those elements is done properly, I can guarantee you you're gonna get fantastic results. And that's what I've been doing. Every headshot sessions, I go through all those 5 elements, and I want to make sure that they are done the way they're supposed to, because that's what's gonna give me the results. So from now on, again, make sure that don't focus only on the equipment, on the lighting, because there's other things which also have to look after to get those stunning results. And if you start analyzing this whole thing from that perspective, as I said, I can guarantee you your work is going to start getting better and better and better. It took me many, many years to understand that, because I was like most of photographers. I was chasing money to get better equipment. I was just trying to get better lighting. I was trying to do some other stuff which still get me somewhere where I was getting better results, but I wasn't really happy with the outcome because there was other elements like face expressions and retouching which were missing. I couldn't overcome those things. The results were not satisfying for me. So that's why where I have to just kind of look at this whole thing from completely different perspective. Okay, I hope this is gonna give you something which gonna help you to understand this process a little bit better, to analyze your work better. And I can, as I said, guarantee you as soon as you implement that into your work, you're gonna get way better results. Okay, I could yap about it for another half an hour or more, but I'm gonna stop here. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always gonna be happy to answer your questions. I'm gonna start creating videos where we can go individually through each of those elements and dive deeper. But at this point, I think this is a good starting point for you guys to look at your work and just basically be honest. Hey, I have my settings figured out, I have my lighting figured out, but face expressions are crap. Let's say retouching is crap. Now I have to work on those things to get my quality of my work to the next level. So that's the message what I'm trying to send to you, and I hope this is going to be something that is going to be extremely useful for you. Okay, thank you again. Have a fantastic weekend. Stay tuned, and I'll chat with you guys very soon. Bye bye.